Trying to share this to our viewers on the Revelations teleconference. Sometime I miss going on live for them. So again, all word is a good word. And as you all know, we've been talking about some really good unveilings and some really good revelations. And so, hello, Mrs. Lindsay. Um, some really good unveilings. A lot of things have been unveiled. A lot of things have uh, come into fruition. And we haven't even gotten to the hidden prophets, a lot of the hidden prophecies yet. So I need y'all to come on back. I need you all to stay with me. I need you all to please share this good word of the Most High. So here we are, day 25 of Exodus chapter 4, and our word for today is the word for the mission today is um. Bear with me a second. Bear with me a second. I'm having technical. The splits of Israel and Judah and Genesis 13. So we're going to get into this word right now. Again, Yom Shalishi for those of you all that are coming in. So here, we're going to get into the word now. We're going to talk about the splits of Israel and Judah to start. A lot of people always talk about, I'm Judah, right? I'm from the tribe of Judah. So we need to understand what that means. We need to understand if you're claiming that you're from the tribe of Judah, it's not just a coloring that you have. It's not just because you're supposed to inherit something. It's not because of retribution. Okay, it's a lot more to that. It's how you living too. So there's a lot of things that we weren't taught that it relates to the tribes of the Most High, the 12 tribes. And so I explained a lot of that in the previous days, day 19, day 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And so you all can always go back, look it up. I planted those seeds, so you can always go back and research it as you're supposed to be doing anyway. So let's get into this word, the message for tonight. And so when the word talks about the splits of Israel and Judah, and so to my understanding, there were different times that Israel, the tribe or the nation that was considered Israel and the tribe of Judah were split. If you follow the word and if you study the word says that in the end they will be one nation, Israel and Judah. And so this was prophetically said, and so the Most High is has prophesied. If the word came down from the Most High that it will be so again. And so during the research and sharing this message, I was prompted to share some information with you about the splits of Israel and Judah, right? And the same information falls under Genesis 13. And so just getting into the message. So in the sixth century, there was a single kingdom during the reign of David and Solomon. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they believed in the same God. And so then we need to understand how many times and when were there splits of Israel and Judah in Genesis 13. So one time was after the death of Solomon during the reign of Rehoboam. So those who accepted Rehoboam as their king became the tribe of Judah, and a majority of the tribe, some of the tribe of Benjamin, also followed after Rehoboam as their king. They became the tribe of Judah. They were located in the southern kingdom of Israel. Their capital was at Jerusalem. Now, there's the other 10 tribes that didn't follow after Rehoboam. The tribe of Asher, Dan, Ephraim, Gad, Issachar, Manasseh, Reuben, Simeon, Zebulun, and then there were some of the remnant of Benjamin out of those 10 tribes who followed after Jeroboam, right? And so they chose Jeroboam as their king, and they remained so titled Israel. They were located in the northern kingdom in Shechem. So what happened to those 10 tribes? We hear about those lost tribes all the time. So those lost tribes, they became disseminated in Halah. And so what was the Halah? And I talked about this when the Most High shared to me that word I shared to you, that word Ansalah, Ansalah. And as you all always know, that I always tell you all, please get those pens and papers out, take notes. You can go back and research this information for yourself. The best thing that you can do to get out of that conditioning, right, is to research for yourself, to affirm and confirm. Because the word said, what? What did the word say about coming to an understanding, coming to a better understanding? Because our understanding would never be perfect, only because some things we are supposed to research and know, and then some things are reserved for a time, certain time. And so research, reprove, right? Study to show yourself approved. Approved to who? Approved to who? You got to show yourself approved to the Most High, that you will come to a place of understanding. Because when you come to that place of understanding, once you, that saying goes, once you know better, you'll do better. So that's what that's all about. Let's get back into this word. So those other 10 tribes was Asher, Dan, Ephraim, Gad, Issachar, Manasseh, Naphtali, Reuben, Simeon, Zebulun, and a remnant of Benjamin. And so again, I was talking about what happened to those 10 lost tribes. Well, most of the research said that they were disseminated. They were lost in the Halah. That's when Assyria enslaved the people of Israel, right? Which led to the extradition, or the Exodus. So we coming around full circle to this message and what's this about. So we're definitely going to get to that. So I always want you all to understand that even me teaching Exodus, there's a reason and there's a purpose and intention that Exodus is being taught at a time such as now, because we have to understand that there was a conditioning, and that condition provided a mindset. And when you had that conditioned mindset, it became something that you passed on from generations to generations to the third generation. And so these generations didn't go 1, 2, 3, 4; they went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like that, right? And so as the generations went on, this mindset was passed. And as each generation passed, the people got more and more lost. So they didn't even know who they were. And even during the time of the dissemination, right, of a time past, a time that was when Israel was disseminated and they got lost, they got entangled in with the people when they were spread everywhere. And so a lot of their mindset, they adopted the mindset of the people and the places that they were. And so when we talk about being disseminated, and we understand those words, entangled, right? So that's what happened. And so here, let's get back to when was another time that Israel and Judah was split. So there was a time when there was another exile, by the way, you all, or that's when Nebuchadnezzar exported 10,000 Jews under Zedekiah. And so one thing I saw in the research, and one thing I came to understand, when the word speaks of these people, we know these people by name. Some of those Bibles reference these same people as kings. It'll say like King Nebuchadnezzar, King Zedekiah, but the word doesn't recognize these individuals as king, right? Because who's the only king, right? So who is the only king? So that's what we have to be mindful of. So again, another split was when Nebuchadnezzar exported 10,000 Jews under Zedekiah. Another split was when Judah was conquered by the Chaldeans. That was another split. Now I'm going to go into when Abraham and Lot was separated, because they also represented nations as well. So let's get into that. Also, one of the parts of the message for tonight was talking about Genesis 13. So we're going to get into that too. First part of it is when Abraham and Lot separated. What happened? We heard about Abraham, right? Abram, right? And then Abram was originally Abraham, and the Most High called him to do the work, and then he gave him Abraham, right? And so that often happens too. When the Most High commissions you, or calls you, or appoints you, or anoints you, your name gets changed for the work. Or once you start doing the work, Most High comes and say, hey, I'm going to call you this, right? And so, because when new things are created, old things have to die. And how can you be doing a new work and be under a new light and a changed spirit and you walking in the old things, right? And so that's why one of the reasons why the Most High, when He anoints you, calls you, that your name gets changed. As you will always hear me say, well, often hear me say, is you'll see me go by Elisha Anani Eldad. That's my name for the work. That's my name for the work, right? And eventually I will be totally under that name. But right now I'm doing the work. Um, so let's talk about Abraham and Lot. So Abraham went up from Egypt to Negev with his wife and everything he had. So Lot went with him. Abraham became very wealthy with livestock. He became wealthy in silver and he became wealthy in gold. So from Negev, he went from place to place. He was traveling. He came to Bethel. And so to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, that's where he first built an altar. There, Abram called on the name of the Lord. I'm gonna stop standing away from this word for a moment. Share this information. It's not off from the message, but I just want to share a thought with you all. I had saw in some research, and I'd heard this before, when some research, some people even teach, when you use certain pronouns or certain descriptive nouns. And so one research that I went into recently was talking about use of the name Lord, use of the name Lord. And so some of the research led to using the name Lord and saying that it was demonic. Now, um, things, things in life, names, just anything in life in general, whatever the perceiver and the interpreter lends it to, it takes on a life of its own, right? And so some people may say use of the word Lord may lend itself to calling out something demonic, a spirit, right? And so if you reference it in that respect, then that will probably be what it will be. When the research, and when I speak, if it's ever mentioned the Lord, we're talking about the Most High. I'm talking about the creator of this world. So it's in a credible sense. It's in a out of respect to the Most High, the Lord. We're talking about the sovereign spirit. I'm talking about the sovereign spirit. So let that be manifest. So getting back into this word. Um, so now Lot, who was moving with Abram, also Lot had flocks, he had herds, he had tents, but the land couldn't support all that they had between Abraham and Lot. They had a lot of wealth. Wealth in the sense of not necessarily money, but you know, things, material things, livestock. And so the land couldn't support them while they stayed together. For their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And so quarreling arose between Abram herders and Lot's herders. The Canaanites and the Perizzites were also living in their land at that time. So Abraham said to Lot, let's not have any quarreling between you and me, between us, or between our herders, yours and mine. We're related, so we shouldn't be quarreling. So it's not is it not that the whole land before you? And so Abraham was talking a lot. He said, so let's part company. So if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. So Abram at that time was trying to be accommodating to Lot. Abram was given Lot the first choice because they had so much they had to split at that time. And so Abram was like, whichever you choose, I'll choose the other. Right? So he didn't start off in a selfish manner or anything like that. He was giving Lot the first choice. Keep going. So Lot looked around and saw that the whole plain of Jordan towards Zoar was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. So this was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So again, Lot was looking out. I don't know which direction I'm gonna go. And when he looked over there, he wanted to go to the greenest, lush part that he saw with his eyes. And so Lot chose for himself the whole plain of Jordan. And so he set out toward the east. The two men parted company. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain and pitched his tent near Sodom. Now, the people of Sodom, they were wicked and they were sinning, and they were sinning greatly against the Most High, right? They didn't want to fall in line. They didn't want to they didn't want to be under any instruction. They didn't want to listen to Yah. So the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had left and parted from him, look around from where you are, to look to the north, look to the south, look to the east, look to the west. All the land that you see, I'll give to you. I'll give it to your offspring. You have this land forever. That was a covenant. That was a promise that the Most High gave to Abram. We're talking about the land of Canaan. We're talking about the plain of Jordan. So I want you all, please look up that area. Where is it now? What was it then when the Most High made the promise to Abram? Because that's part of the covenant. This is the land that Judah, that Israel was supposed to inherit it. If you don't even know where it is, then how are you going to understand what you're supposed to inherit? Right? If the word that you've always learned said that you're supposed to, Israel and Judah supposed to return back to that place, if you don't even know what a place is, how are you going to go there? How are you going to get there? We gotta come out that misunderstanding and get back to understanding Judah, Yah's people. We must. Okay? So that's what this is about. When the Most High sends those anointed, when the Most High sends those appointed, right? How will you know who they are? Because they're not bringing confusion. They're not scared to speak up. They're not scared to tell you the truth. They're not going to lie because they want you to accept them. They're going to tell you the truth whether they accept it or not. I often have people asking me all the time, you're different. Why are you saying this? I've even had those that were called into the religious ministries saying they're not ready for what you're talking about. Why are you telling people this? Because the Most High sent me and put me on a mission. I must tell the truth. My life and my spirit depends on this as well. Okay? So I'm going to get back into this word. So the Most High was telling Abram to look around and was having Abram understand this is what you're going to inherit, and also your offspring for the generations. Now, Most High said, I will make your offsprings like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go walk through the land. Know the length of the land. Know the width of the land. This is the land that I'm giving you. Most I was telling Abram to what? Get acquainted with your covenant. Get acquainted with your promises. This is your gift that I'm giving you. So that if anybody comes and try to take it from you, you'll know what's yours. Understand this. When you know something is yours, and you know you had something in your possession, when somebody come to take it, you're going to fight like I don't know what, because you knew it was yours. Hallelujah. All right. So Abraham went to live near the trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he pitched his tents. There he built an altar to the Lord. to the Most High. Okay? And so all things fall in line together for a purpose. The word led me to remember when I was and I'm leave this information right now talking about Lot and Abram, because this word is going to come full circle today. Remember, all things fall in line for good, right? And so here, remember in a previous day I was talking about how the Most High was showing me these numbers, these prophetic numbers, right? And when I started actually teaching, right, I ignored those numbers. And then I was talking in a recent day of Exodus chapter 4. I was talking about how the Most High showed me these numbers again when the Most High showed me that word Ansela. And so started to recognize these words as being prophetic numbers. Started to recognize these same numbers as having a different name, biblical code references. And so here we are when we're talking about Abraham and Lot. Another number, I'm sorry, came up, and that was number 19, biblical code. So number 19 was Eve. It was talking about Eve. Eve, right? Number 25 was shown to me. Number 25, generation 25 is Moses. So here was we talking about Eve. This was the matriarch that the word says was at the beginning. And here was the Most High was showing me number 25, generation 25. This was Moses, right? This was Moses' generation. So here was a beginning, and then here was a new beginning with Moses, right? This Most High was leading me to something. So this word is going to come full circle tonight. So understand Eve, right? And Genesis in the beginning. Here was Moses gets shown to me. Here was Moses, generation 25, and Moses was the reset, right? Let's keep going in this word. Gonna come full circle tonight. The number 26 was shown to me. So what was 26? 26. Yahweh. Yah. He was. He is. He shall be. Shem. 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 That was shown to me in the book of Genesis. Right? Then it started to go on, and as I'm doing the research, I'm understanding about we stand in this book of Genesis. Remember, those words there was about Genesis 13. Okay, and so here it's like taking us back and forth, but it's having us understand here was Eve, right? At the beginning of the book of Genesis. And then at some point, there was Moses, right? Called for the work. And then there was Noah called for the work. So it's given these people sequentially from the recorded history of what was and during the time of during their time they were called for the work. Now it mentions Noah's sons during that time of the reset. So Noah had three sons. Noah had Shem, Shem. Noah had Ham, Ham. Noah had Japheth, right? And so where will you find these names? You'll find it under the tribes, but you'll also find it specifically in Genesis chapter 6, verses 10. So out of Noah's three sons, a lot of the word mentions Shem as being the good son, and we wonder why that was, right? So I'm not gonna get too much into that. We're gonna keep on going this message tonight. Now, another prophetic number was shown to me, and that was the number 45. 45 was Adam. Remember, number 19 was Eve, right? Word showed me this. Word showed me this mathematical equation, right? And it's so amazing to me when I could, Most High is showing me this information. I share this with you all, but Most High is showing me this information, and it's just like all things come together. It flows together, right? Because when the Most High showed me number 26, showed me number 19, then it was talking about these people that was that was doing the work, right? The Most High used for different reset times of reset. And so then when it showed me this these prophetic numbers, again, Eve being number 19, Moses being number 25, Yahweh being number 26. And then it showed me Adam. Adam was number 45. And so then it showed me this mathematical equation. Adam being 45, Eve being number 19. It showed me the number 26. It said 45 Adam, Eve was 19. 45 minus 19 equals 26. What was number 26? 26 was Yah. He was, he is, and he shall be. What were you taught about the word, the Bible? It talks about what was, what is, and what is to come. It lines up with what we know about the Most High and the Most High's word. The word speaks of biblical history, which is what was. The word speaks of back then at the beginning, it talked about all things prophetic of what is to come, right? What is back then at the beginning, it was what was then. But when we look back at the time, now we're in the middle of what is now, right? And then we have to understand what is to come. So it lines up with number 26, what it represents for the Most High, for Yah. Yah is what was, what is, and what is to come. Let me keep getting this word. So it's gonna come full circle. And so Most High showed me another prophetic number. That prophetic number, hello, Miss Evans, was 1522. 1522 prophetic number. I hope you all taking these numbers down so you can do this research, right? Because the word says search deep, so you can get a better understanding. So this word is coming around the circle today because remember, it was mentioned that in order for you to get to where you need to be, you got to get an understanding. And so here, number 152, prophetic number 1522, it mentions Sholay, right? Gall, Gall, being Sholay. It is metaphorical. This word, Gal Sholay, is metaphorical, right? It referenced this number, Gal or Sholay, was found in Acts, right? Chapter 8, number 23. And it mentions, this is where it says, gall of bitterness. It stands for extreme wickedness, productive of evil fruit. It mentions the gall of bitterness. What is the gall of bitterness? So in Acts chapter 8, verses 23, it in Acts is used to signify the sinfulness of sin, which leads to the bitter rest grief, bitterness of spirit, deep resentment. These are just words, right? But we gotta get to the understanding of this. What does it mean to just be so bitter? What does that mean? Right? The grief, the bitterness of spirit, deep resentment. For you to be so wicked, to be in the most sinfulness of sin. See, we tend to think that, let's be real, sin is murder, for example. Sin is murder, for example. I saw someone post on social media today, right? One of the brothers was talking about what is covetousness, right? Which is also a sin. And we like to put these degrees of sin, this thought process of degrees of sin, murder being the most sinful, right? It is sin, right? Jealousy is a sin, but it's not that bad. Talking down and talking wicked on somebody, sin, it's not that bad, right? Gossiping, sin, and it's kind of in between. So we have this mindset of degrees of sin. Sin is sin, y'all, people. It's sin, right? It doesn't matter what degree it is. See, we come to a time right now that we want to place these degrees on what's evil and what's not. What's good is evil, what's evil is good. We lost in the understanding, because what's wrong used to just be wrong. It wasn't questioned. It wasn't any degrees of it. It was just that. When it was wrong, you felt it in your spirit. Even in the word and biblical history, when they mentioned that, when they talked about Abel and Cain, right? When they talked about Abel and Cain killed, and they killed one brother, killed the other brother. He ran. They didn't have the teachings of the commandments at the end. There was no, to my understanding, right? But see, you already know when I don't do the debate thing, because the only people that know the truth, they had to be there at the time, right? So I'm talking about it. I speak from a place of history, right? And so here, when the word spoke of Cain and Abel, there was no commandments to my understanding at that time. And so how did the brother know to run when he killed the other brother? Because he felt it in the spirit, right? We have gotten away from what the Most High gave us, right, in the spirit. You should already know that if you do something wrong, you're going to feel it in your spirit. It just doesn't feel good. So we choose to ignore. We choose to ignore what our spirit says, and we keep it moving. And that's the problem right now, Yuda. That's the problem, y'all people. We want to ignore what the spirit says, right? If we do something good, we feel it. It's in the spirit, and we feel good about it. And some of us even want to talk about it. Because you're not going to tell anybody if you murdered somebody, are you? You're not going to speak on that. You're going to keep it quiet. But if you do something good, you might want to talk about it. So how do you know to do that? Who taught you that? Because we're talking about the things of the spirit. And so here's the bottom line of that. We're talking about the things of the spirit. We can't ignore that. See, we want to put a covering over that. We want to veil it up. We want to say it's other things. If it's sin, it's sin. If it's evil, it's evil. Right? If it's good, it's good without question. If it's evil without a question, without a doubt. See, we gotta stop putting all these extras into, and keep it black and white and keep it simple, right? Because see, that's the problem right now. All right, we got to get back to that. We got to get back to that. Because every word that I understood, it doesn't matter what the subject matter was. The Most High said, go back to the original time. Because that's where we messed up. Most High said, my instruction was at the beginning, and man came and changed it. And that's the problem right now. Most High said, go back, go back. Because even before I gave you the word, you already knew that I put it in your spirit, right? Most High said, go back. I'm going to keep going. Here is another prophetic number. That prophetic number is 1530. 1530. 1530 talks about time. Time. Even time. Man, messed it up. Messed it up. Wanted to put their own spin on it. Who's the keeper of time? Men will like to tell you they are. Time is not even relevant to the Most High. In the blink of an eye, the word said. Right? But the man, tick tock, they want to put the time on and put the time zones on and all of these things, right? I'm gonna keep going. This word coming full circle tonight. And so here it's funny that when the Most High showed me this particular number, there was all other meanings that came up with it. And so 1530 was time. 1530 prophetic number was also something rolled like a stone. We're gonna get to this word tonight. It's 1530. Something rolled like a stone instead. Something rolled like a stone. Time was 1530. And also something rolled like a stone was 1530. Let's keep on going in this word. Also 1530 was a spring of water. A spring of water. Let me tell y'all, I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. All things flow together for good, right? So understand this word, okay? We got to get to the getting of the understanding. And so 1530 was time. 1530 was something rolled like a stone. 1530 was also a spring of water, a living word. Do you understand the living word is also the living water? The living water is also the living word. What does it mean for you babes? What does it mean for the babes? What does it mean for those who don't have an clear understanding? What is the living water? When the word, anytime you hear a word, it speaks of those who have a thirst for the living water, right? And so we think of it uh when we think of it in a physical sense, right? We understand that um, we need water to live. You can't live too long without water. So we got to have that water in the physical sense, right? If you were to think about it in the even in the mental sense, right? When you think about, for instance, people who like they're in the desert, right? And they see these mirages of water. They start trying to track toward the water while they're in the desert because it's gonna save them if they get this water, right? And so, even in the psychological sense, they need this water. It lines up with the spiritual sense, right? Because all things that matter needs the water, right? It needs the water to live. When the word references the living water, what is it that we need to live? What is it that we need to live in the sense of the world, material sense? What is it that we need to live in the spiritual sense? We need the word. We need the word so we can understand. We need the word being the living water. And when we get thirsty for it or a seed is planted, it's funny how all these things line up metaphorically, right? A seed is planted. You need the water so the seed will start to be nurtured and start to grow. It needs to keep on being nurtured, so you keep adding the water. Eventually, it's going to grow into something beautiful. But how did it even start? It started from a seed. What was the seed? It was the seed being planted, right? When that plant keeps needing the water, it's thirsty for the living water. It's thirsty for the living water. It's thirsty for the water. All things line up. When you've been conditioned and taught about the word, Most High speaks in parables, right? Yeshua speaks in parables. We don't always understand it. Perception, right? Perception. Also, who taught it to you may give you a misunderstanding. Here's this word coming full circle. We gotta get to the correct understanding, right? We have to, we must. So getting back to this thought about the living word and the living water. So 1530 was time. 1530 was something rolled like a stone. 1530 was that spring of water. 1530 was also mentioned. It talks about and you all know I don't talk about any other books, right? But in referencing and keeping in with the word, the message tonight, all right? So 1530 mentioned this Bible called the Tyndale, Tyndale Bible. And so I was interested to find out about this Bible. So make sure you all research this. And so here in this Tyndale Bible, there's a few verses, right, which reference Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 11. So I'm going to read this to you. Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 11 in the Tyndale Bible talks about the fall of Adam and Eve after they were tempted by the serpent to eat the forbidden fruit. Why don't you all know about this? Because somebody didn't teach it to you. Now, I share this information with you only if the Most High leads me to this information. Now, is this information something you need to know? Absolutely, because it's coming full circle. It's validating. It's confirming what the Most High needs you to understand. Now, naysayers, adversaries, opposers Why is she telling people this? I do not pick and choose, right? I don't cherry pick information to share with you all, right? It is us. Half the time I'm learning with you all because the Most High showed it to me. People always question, how is she doing this and how is she sharing this and all that other? Because the Most High showed it to me, right? Most High gave it to me to share with you all. It's up to you to follow it, to research it. That's what you're supposed to be doing. There's a point to this. Okay? We're going to keep on going. So in Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 11, in the Tyndale Bible, again, it talks about the fallen Adam and Eve after they were tempted by the serpent to eat the forbidden fruit. So as you start to read, you can see how these verses were translated. And so it was the person who wrote the book, his name was William Tyndale, right? Here's the funny part about it. When we talked about the Pentecost of 1530, I'm gonna tell you what that is. So this man, this man, um, in 1536, they said he portrayed the church. He was defrocked in an elaborate public ceremony. He was turned over to civil authorities. He was supposed to be strangled to death, and he was supposed to be burned at the stake because he shared this information. This his last words when he was persecuted, publicly persecuted. This is what he said: Lord, open the King of England's eyes. Why did this man, William Tyndale, say that? Why? So when you all hear about the Pentecost, it's associated to Catholic doctrine, right? And so people have on and off different times challenged the doctrine, Catholic doctrine, just like they challenge any other religious doctrine, right? Just sharing this information with you all. So Tyndale's translation of the Bible notes he was critical of the Roman Catholic Church. The Catholic Church had long proclaimed that it was the only true church. The only true church was the Catholic Church. So the word church in Catholic teaching can only be used of the Catholic Church. And so there was no other organized religion in England at that time. It was the Catholicism was the only religion at that time. And so here was this man, William Tyndale, and he was talking about Genesis and what happened, right? He was giving his version, his interpretation, his teaching, and it opposed what the only religion was at that time. What's the point to all this, you say? Here's the point. There were different times in history, right? From what was, what is, and what is even now. That there were people who we all have our own beliefs. We all have our own understanding. We've all been conditioned, every single one of us. And for anyone to say you haven't, you don't even understand that you have. So why do I say that? Because your whatever you believe came from somewhere or somebody. So you were in essence conditioned, right? Now, if you are an individual that has never been exposed to any type of religious doctrine, you may have been exposed to a societal way of thinking or societal doctrine void of religious interpretation. And what does that mean? That you were conditioned by society. That's what that means. Whoever your parents were, whoever took care of you, whoever raised you, whoever told you some things. And so, as you were, when you were born into this world, up until a certain time, someone shared a thought with you. So, yes, you were conditioned, right? When we talk about religion, specifically religions, most people um, in in organized societies fall under some type of belief. Okay. And so here, when we think about uh, times, different times um, during the history of the world, there were people who were penalized, punished, killed for their beliefs. Even Yeshua, even Yeshua, right? Let's keep going in this word. It's going to come full circle tonight. Um, so concerning the light in which the angels live. So here was another number 1530. 1530 concerning the light in which angels live. So all of these different interpretations for this particular number. You see where it's kind of flowing in together, right? During this time, there was always this spring of water. It was always the word. It was always the living water. At some point in time, there was something that happened where somebody was penalized for this word. Hallelujah. Right? And as the word, right, biblical history taught us when Yeshua was penalized for this word and they put Yeshua into this tomb. That's what the word taught us, right? Somehow this stone was removed when there was a spiritual rising, when there was a, I don't like to use the word awakening in this sense because it wasn't a spiritual awakening. The spirit was always alive, right? But physically, right? If the history, biblical history be true, okay, as we were taught, when the physical body of Yeshua passed away and was put into the tomb, spirit came from the tomb. Them, the people, right? Or even the ones that came to recover the body of Yeshua, they had to roll the stone away from the tomb. That's what biblical history taught us, right? So 1530, after a certain amount of time, something was rolled like a stone. We're going to keep going, right? Because 1530 AC, 1530, concerning the light in which the angels live. So what is this about? That this is so the word has shown to all. This is so the word has shown to all, as when the Lord was made manifest to Peter, James, and John. Hello, this word is coming full circle. Again, what is this talking about? It's talking about when after Yeshua was crucified, penalized, and punished for his belief. I'm saying his this time, right? You all know I don't like to use pronouns in relation to the spirit, but we're talking about a man, right? A man that came in a physical sense, right? And so when Yeshua was penalized for his belief, right, by a group of people, right? And so when it mentioned this Peter, James, and John's, these were his apostles that followed him, right? And traveled with him and witnessed with him. And so when the Lord was made manifest to these people, right? When these people saw the Lord again, that's what it's saying. When these people saw the Lord again, his face, his face was shown as the sun. His garments became as light. How do we know this? Because the word says in Matthew 17:2, you can find this information. So it's saying when the Most High was crucified and came back in a spiritual sense, here was Peter, James, and John. They were remorseful. They were sad. They, even after this grievous, they were in grief. But after this, the most sinfulness of sins was done to Yeshua, when there was a bitter gallness, that action that happened. This word is coming full circle, right? Here was these apostles, these disciples, these men that worked with Yeshua, right? Witnessing and testifying. They saw him again in a spiritual sense. Maybe it looked like a remnant, something like how they had saw him in the physical man, right? And so they knew who he was. There was a familiarity with that, right? So they knew who he was, but he wasn't the physical man. He was a spiritual sense. And so it said, he so appeared to them simply because their interior sight was open. How did they know when they saw the spirit of Yeshua that it was Yeshua? Because they were blessed in the gifts in the spirit. That was their interior sight. Their interior sight, their spiritual sense was open. So they could see in the spirit. They could understand in the spirit. Hallelujah. This thing is coming full circle today because what did it say at the beginning? The word told you. It said, in order to understand, you got to understand in the physical sense, right? Because all things matter in the physical world cannot be understood and identified in the spiritual sense. Hallelujah. Right? And so here was Peter, James, and John, and they was able to see the Most High in the spiritual sense. They knew who he was. And so how did they know? The same is confirmed also in the prophets. So in Isaiah, where the Lord's kingdom in heaven is treated of, let's understand the scripture. So what it's saying is we saw this same happening. Isaiah saw the Most High the same way. Isaiah's spiritual sense was open. He identified the Most High in the spirit. He knew who he was. There was a familiarity with him. Okay? Couldn't identify the physical man, but he knew the spirit. How do you identify the spirit? A good spirit, right? Because you're familiar with the good spirit, right? You keep going with this. So let's understand Matthew 17:2. We're going to complete this. About to get done with this for tonight. Matthew 17:2. So Matthew 17:2 says this. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun. His clothes became as white as the light. The light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold as the light of 7 days. That's in Isaiah 30:26. And so what does Isaiah 30:26 reads? The moon will shine like the sun. The sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days. What's happening at that time? That's when the Lord is binding up the bruises of his people, and the Lord is healing the wounds that the Most High inflicted on his people during the times of punishment. And in John, where also the Lord's kingdom, which is called New Jerusalem, is spoken of, right? And so it references this time of a time to come. This is found in Revelations 21:3. It's saying the city hath no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of Yah lightens it, and the Lamb is the lamp thereof. So understand what it was talking about here. And Isaiah 30:26 is speaking of a time when on during the time or on the day, right? How will we know this in the physical time? You won't. So understand, you're going to have to understand when this is taking place. How you know when this is taking place? Because on that day, right, the sun is going to be 7 times brighter than it usually is, right? And so it's going to shine like that for 7 full days, right? The moon is going to be so bright, you're going to think it's the sun. And so, how do you know what's going on during this time? This is when the Most High is healing the people. This is when the Most High is blessing Most High's people, Yah's people. How do you know you're receiving that gift? How do you know you're receiving the healing? How do you know you're being blessed with the gifts? Because you're going to feel it. Right? When was it before that this word was spoken before? This word was spoken of by John, right? When it speaks of New Jerusalem. So when this time comes and this healing and all of this is taking place, this is Most High saying, my people, I love you. I'm going to forgive you. There was a time when I was so angry with you that I inflicted you with punishments. And you, even there's times when it wasn't about you, you still had to endure the inflictions of even those who I hated, right? Because even you were still in error of your sin. You were still in the sin of sinfulness. There was no degrees of the sin for sinfulness. Because you were in sin, you still had to face the affliction. Hello? Hallelujah. Right? Because there's a word that even says that even my people will still be facing afflictions because they were still in sin. Right? And so here is a time to come. Right? And then it said the city has no, so there won't be a need for sun. There won't be a need for moon to shine after this healing takes place because the Most High is going to be the light. Yeshua is going to be the light, right? Revelations 22:5, it says, there shall be no night there. They have no need of a lamp, neither light of the sun, for the Lord giveth them the light. So there was another time, I'm gonna share this with you and we're gonna end for the night. So there was another time um in the word when they had the same experience where they were able to identify the most high Yeshua, right? By the Spirit. So this is when the Lord appeared to Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 7 elders. Nadab and Abihu were the first 2 sons of Aaron, the Levite, by marriage to Elisheba. Why did Yah kill Nadab and Abihu in Leviticus 10? Nadab and Abihu were everything you don't want in a priest. When we hear about Leviticus, we're talking about people who were called and appointed in the mission. Hello. They were commissioned. They didn't do right. What did these 2 do? These were some of the first priests, some of the first Levites, right? They minimized sin. They made up their own rules for worship. They were consumed by fire for disobeying the Lord. How do we know this? I want you to look up Leviticus chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. So Aaron's sons, they sinned in human terms. They were arrogant, they were sloppy, they were disrespectful. So what was the lesson we needed to learn from these 2? Their sin was a sin of mortality, right? There's a universal ethical lesson to be learned from these 2. What was it? It was because to err is human. We tend to, and so here's this word coming full circle tonight. Remember, I started off in a word and I said evil is evil, good is good, sin is sin. To not sin is to not sin. It's simple. There's no gray areas, right? You either to the left or you either to the right. You can't stand in the middle and say I'm to the left. You can't stand in the middle and say I'm to the right. Right? It's either one or the other. Originally, that's how it was. Right now, in this time such as now, if you were standing over to the left, everybody would have all these additional reasons and perceptions and all these things to say. Well, they counted to the left, but they ain't always to the left. So I'm gonna say it's to the left. And who said left is left, and who said right is right. No, and we need to stop it, people. We need to stop it, Judah. We need to stop it, Israel. Because I'm not talking to anybody else. Because the Most High said, I'm talking to you. Most High said, I'm talking to you, Israel. Most High said, I'm talking to you, Judah. Right? That's what the Most High said. I'm not talking to anybody else because they don't come from a point of understanding. And Most High said they probably won't. But I'm trying to save my people. Right? Evil is evil. Good is good. Sin is sin. And no sin is not sinning. Simply. All right? And so here's the universal lesson when we talk about Aaron's sons. You cannot make up your own rules about that. To sin is to sin. There's no degrees of sin. Sin is sin. Doesn't matter what it is. There's no perfect person that won't sin. But what we can do is progressively try to stop sinning. It's the work of not doing it and trying to live correctly. And I need you all to understand this, even in time of now, for those of us who are doing that, you're under attack. You will be under attack because 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 Satan don't want you to try and do that. Satan only wants you to how to understand it. I'm falling under the spirit of the Most High because I'm trying to get you to understand that. And I thank the Most High. Rain down on me, strengthen me, protect me, because I need you all to understand this is what the Most High told me to tell you. All right. So we're gonna keep on going with this, and then we're gonna end for the night. So when they talked about these Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and it's just talking about. Remember, the two Aaron's two sons wasn't there. They were destroyed by the Most High, but they saw the God of Israel. They saw under whose feet was it it was a work of sapphire stone, as if it were the substance of heaven and clearness. What does that mean? They saw this vision. And so in Exodus chapter 24:10, they were able to see this vision. And so what was the vision they saw? As the Lord's celestial and spiritual appear, right? Before the external side of the angels. It appeared as the sun and it appeared as the moon. So therefore the word sun signifies what's celestial and the moon signifies what is spiritual. And so here, let me share this with you. And I'm just sharing this information with you, right? Because the Most High said, don't fall into all these other things. Don't fall away from what I'm trying to tell you. It says, but still able to recognize, because the world is going to give you all of this other information. It wants you to think about a strategy, and it wants you to think about the scientific part of it, and it wants to give you all these perceptions of the original, right? We can be looking at the sun, and we know we're looking at the sun, and the Most High created the sun. But then somebody is going to come along, and we say the Creator created the sun. Scientists is going to tell you, oh, it's a combustion of gases and hydrogen and phosphorus and all of these. That's what science is going to tell you about the sun. There was no creator. It's just a mixture of this, right? Right. And somebody else is going to come and give their perception of what the sun is, right? And then some other theory is going to follow about what this sun is that we're looking at, right? And then somebody's going to come along and tell you, oh, your creator, your Lord, your God didn't create the sun, I did. So everybody's going to come in with all these perceptions. But see, we see this sun, and we all looking at the same thing, but it keeps lending itself to other perceptions and interpretations. That's what happened in the world, right? Understand. Most High said, this thing come full circle tonight. It's ended tonight. Most High said, get back to the original. What was the original word? And what was my word? What was my word? Um, Lastly, tonight, I'm gonna share two last prophetic numbers with you before I end for the night. So one of the last of the two is number 1531. 1531 is talking about a bowl. It represents the seven bowls of the wrath of Yah. Period. It means that the Most High at seven times afflicted people, punished people, penalized people for sin. Seven times. Can it be identified as seven tribulation periods? Quite possibly. We're gonna keep on going. Um, with the second number is H 3515. Kabad. KABED. What does that mean? What does that mean? H3515 KABED. What does it mean? It means a people heavy with the burden of iniquity. It's a cloud charged with rain. What is that? People heavy with the burden of iniquity is sin. People that have a sin. This thing is almost at the circle tonight. People that have a sin. It's not questionable. It's sin, God's people, right? A cloud charged with rain. It's grief. It represents grief. It represents remorsefulness. It represents sorrow. It's gray area, right? Here is another number. This is the last number I'm going to share with you all for tonight. The number H3515 was also representative in its soul, SOUL, our soul, your soul. Remember on a previous day I shared the word nefesh with you, NEPHESH. It also represents this number. And what is it about the soul? Sea life, land creatures, man, anything that breathes, a creature, a person, appetite, your mind, anything living, your emotion, your passion, the inner being of a man, a person, a living person that has, organs, vital organs, blood running through their body. Your soul is the man, a man himself, meaning a person, not just a man, like a male, female, like, um, yourself, a person, an individual, soul, like the activity of your mind, the activity of your will, the activity of your character. All this falls into your soul. What is your soul? Your soul is defined in so many ways. It can be perceived and interpreted in so many ways. But you, as the individual, what is your soul? It's you. It's you. You aren't your physicalness, your physical covering, this outer body that you have, and all its perfections, right? Your soul is not defined by the outer cover. It's the shape of your soul is indistinguishable. If you were to lose your outer covering and you were to appear to a family member in a spiritual sense, they might not recognize this form that you have, but they'll be familiar with your spirit. They'll be like, I feel you. I know you coming back to tell me something. What is it that you want to say? Because they can feel your spirit. Your spirit, your soul is your presence. It goes before you. If you have a good spirit on you, people are gonna know when you're in the room. If you have a good spirit on you, people are gonna know when you're coming. If you have a good spirit on you, people are gonna still feel the goodness of you when you leave the room. If you have a bad spirit on you, people are gonna talk about you when you leave the room. If you have a bad spirit on you, people are gonna say, "Whoa, I'm glad they're gone." And your bad spirit precedes you because they're gonna know when you come in. Oh, here comes such and such. That's your spirit. That's your soul. That is not even questionable. I'll leave you all with this tonight. What is sentience? Sentience. SENTIENCE. What is sentience? Sentience is the capacity to experience feelings, sensations, consciousness. This word, right? Soul. This word soul. It refers to sentience. right? How you experience things, how you feel things, your consciousness, right? Every living thing has a sentiment. It can experience things, it can feel things. Living things, human beings, animals, sometimes they're described, some things, most things are described as having the fish, a soul, a spirit. We don't often like to think of things we think of minimally, like as having a soul or spirit, like an ant, right? We don't think of it like that. We think of it as just being an ant. But an ant can feel, because if an ant couldn't feel, for instance, a red ant, even though it's the smallest, tiniest thing, if a red ant got on you, its its reaction is to be protective, so it's going to bite you. So it must have felt a certain way, so they had to protect itself to bite you. That's why we have biting red ants. So I'm saying every living thing has a sentiment. We want to define every living thing as having degrees of intelligence, right? But that's why the Most High created man and woman to be dominant over these things, other things, right? Other than that, everything has a sentence. All right? I'm gonna leave you with that. You all, this thing is blowing up. It's We're about to get to so much more understanding, right? Please write. Hopefully, you've written down these prophetic numbers, these scriptures. Go back and look them up. I would love to keep going, but I don't want to lose you all in the interest. It is 10 o'clock. I should have been off, but I didn't want to just stop at a certain place. Um, Thank you all for coming in. For those of you who came in, even if it's late, share this word. Share this word. So important, right? We must get to a point and a place of understanding, right? To know better is to do better. Thank the Most High for bringing us to this moment. Thank you for blessing me, Most High, with clarity, with an understanding that I may deliver your word to your people. I ask that your word be embellished and expounded to the extreme, um, so that people can understand what the original word of yours was, Most High. Hallelujah. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you for sharing this your time with me. Um, as I always say to you all, these hidden prophecies are coming up. Come back, share this word, share this word, share this word. Um, Thank you all again. Have a good night. Blessings till we meet again. Peace, love, and might.